Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Fertility for Colored Girls National Infertility Awareness Week webinar. I'm Bridget Alton, and I'm with Public Relations for Fertility for Colored Girls. Soon, we will have with us on the webinar Dr. Angie Beltsos, who is going to give us some great information about IVF. If you would bear with us for a few minutes, we are going to get the doctor on the line to talk to you, so make sure you have your questions ready. Be right back.
Please, but I'm on and it says live.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up. You're on. I'll see you popping up.
Hello there.
Hi.
Looks like we are coming in with Dr. Angie Beltzos. Thank you so much for all of your patience. Having a few technical difficulties on this Tuesday evening, so thank you for bearing with us. Dr. Beltzos, can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's perfect.
Excellent. Okay. So you can hear me okay. Can you see me okay? We're doing a little technology check, folks, so thank you for being patient with us.
Yes. I can see you just perfectly. Thank you.
Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. So, Dr. Beltzos, first of all, thank you for joining us this evening. I don't know if you wanted to share your webcam, but I don't see it, so let me see if
So if I hit the video, will that maybe if I hit video, it'll add me in?
I believe so. We can certainly try it.
Alrighty, there I go. Let's see. TikTok.
Right. But how is everything so far? How's your Tuesday going?
For me, it's going great and very
Fantastic.
excited about today. So I have a video clip, but I see your picture. I don't know if you see me.
Nope, I don't see you yet, but that's okay. You know what? We'll go ahead and start our conversation. If your camera ever decides to show up, I will make sure that you get to the screen. So again, thank you for being with us. This is Fertility for Colored Girls National Infertility Awareness Week IVF webinar. We are so excited to have you here tonight, Dr. Beltzos. So first, to start, let's go ahead and just talk about your expertise in IVF and your background.
Well, thank you so much for having me tonight. I am a reproductive endocrinology doctor, so a fertility doctor in Chicago, and I practice here in a busy clinic, which has been really proud to participate in some of your endeavors and Fertility for Colored Girls. We have Toria, who's been a great a link between us.
Absolutely.
And so we've been really pleased to participate. We have been in the Chicago area for about 20 years and have done IVF on hundreds and thousands of women and helping them have a family.
Awesome. That sounds great. That sounds great. Well, I know that we have a bunch of people who are interested in IVF, but maybe it seems a little bit overwhelming to them. So what would you say to a woman or couple who may be interested in gathering research about IVF? Where would you tell them to start?
Well, as many of us go to Dr. Google for information, I think you know, a lot of people lean on the internet and computers to get information, but also I think we get it from our friends and family. However, I would start with making an appointment with a fertility doctor who can begin to help explore what might be going on in your situation, in your body, that might provide some clarity for why it's not working yet. So I think an initial consultation with the doctor can, with some simple blood test and ultrasound, can give you a lot of insight into fertility and what might be going on. So I think that's a great place to start.
Excellent, excellent. And of course, you can let me know if there is any particular question or point that you want to discuss. But what are some of the misconceptions that you see or hear about in your work with IVF? What do you think are some of the things that people most commonly get wrong about the process?
Well, it's a very, very interesting question because sometimes things that appear so simple may not be. A lot of women, when they're watching TV or reading a magazine, they see some of these Hollywood stars that are having a baby later in life. So one of the biggest, I think, myths that we get is that we're fertile for a long time as women. But the reality is that by the time we hit 40, the chance of us getting pregnant and having a baby with the eggs that we have becomes much less.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we talk about family planning and trying to understand, like, what would we want to have our family look like, and when do we start having children, age is going to be a big player in that. So if, as we're going from our 20s to our 30s and we're thinking about what we want out of life, if family is important, then in starting to talk to our spouse or our partner and ourselves about what we dream about is going to be really important, because age is going to be a big deal. And one of the myths are that we actually can have a baby whenever we want. But by the time we hit 40, the chances go down quite a bit.
Okay.
Do you have, do you see a lot of the women that are coming to talk about some of this in your experience? Do you find that age is a question that they ask about, or?
Definitely, definitely. And while I'll say my disclaimer here is that I don't typically attend some of the confidential support groups that Fertility for Colored Girls hosts in Chicago and in some of the different cities.
Yeah.
I can say just to answer your question, to some of the events that I've been in, what happens a lot of times, particularly with Black women, is that we may wait a little bit longer to get married. Maybe we did college first, or we traveled, or whatever we did, or whatever life experiences we had before we got married. Now you're in a situation where maybe you've not even gotten married before 35. Oh, there's Reverend Stacy. I'm gonna pause real quick and do a little echo. So hold on. Black women is that we may wait a little longer to get married. Echoing. So college first, or we traveled, or whatever we did, or whatever life experiences we had before we got married. Now you're in a situation where maybe you've not even gotten married. Okay. Reverend Stacy. Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Having a lot of interesting technological issues tonight. But now I am going to let Reverend Stacy say hi. So hold on. Oh, she dropped out. Okay. Dr. Beltos, are you still there?
I am.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, that's one thing. So to answer your question, what we might end up with is people getting married later, and you assume that whenever you're ready to have a baby, you'll just be able to do so. So I think that is a question that happens. I know that Reverend Stacy, in her story, was, I believe, 36 when she got married. And although age wasn't the only factor, it was one of the complications when she explored her options to build a family with her husband later. And you assume that whenever you're ready to have a baby, you'll just be... Okay. So I'm not sure why that there's a feed. What it is there's a delay. And so I think Reverend Stacy is trying to join us on the webinar, but her delay is playing the audio back more slowly. And so as she's coming up to join the call, to join the webinar, the audio is playing back, and we have some overlap. So it happens when we join the call at different times. So yay, technology, it does so well. in some areas, and then in other areas, we still have a lot of work to do. So I know we got interrupted a couple of times, but I hope that does answer your question. That yes, age is a concern as women are getting married a little later, or they waited for some particular reason, and now it's a concern because definitely what I have learned from my time working with Fertility for Colored Girls is that I believe the quality and the quantity of eggs, and help me out here, Dr. Belsos, but that does decrease after about the age of 35, and that a woman is actually born with all the eggs that she'll ever have. So age is definitely a concern as you surpass the mid 30s. So that's definitely something that we discuss at a lot of our events.
I think the other interesting thing is that some people think that for younger women that they may not have as much of a concern, but actually 21%. Hi.
Shiloh saying hello.
1% of the patients who did IVF in the United States this last check were less than 35 years old. So it's not to say that even young patients can be challenged with fertility. Another myth that we found is is men and what their contribution is to this whole process. And because it takes two to tango, up to 40 to 50% of couples who are having trouble with infertility also have some trouble with the male component. So we can't ignore that either. And I think starting when we look at, like, okay, if the couple's not getting pregnant, where do we start testing? And definitely we have to look at the egg, the uterus, but also sperm.
Excellent. Those are great points. So I see that Reverend Stacy did join us. I'm going to see if she wants to say hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fertility for Colored Girls, National Infertility Week webinar. Shiloh says the same thing.
Thank you, Reverend Stacy. Hey, Shiloh. It's good to see you both. We're just talking to Dr. Angie.
Hey, B and Dr. B, how y'all doing? All right, we're going to go so we can finish up, so you guys can finish up. God bless everyone.
All right, thank you. Same to you. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, so so other things that people have looked at for myths are that if someone's really active and healthy and they're working out and they say, well, I lead this healthy life, does that can that make her be very fertile? And even though women might have be very healthy in their diet and exercise, these women still can have issue with their fertility. So it's important. They found that women who are exercising too much, interesting, that might be too thin, they actually can go through menopause earlier than expected. So the point here is that I think healthy living is really important, but everything in moderation.
Okay.
Now, we've been looking at causes of, like, what makes eggs go bad sooner, and looking at even environmental factors. These things can get in the way too, like plastics and makeup. They've looked to see if these things can cause early menopause, and that was one of the myths, that even our environment doesn't really affect our fertility, but actually they're finding that even some makeups can bother the eggs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really something. Dr. Belsos, where can women find out more about those factors that could be harmful and they're not even aware?
Well, I recently wrote an article for the Huffington Post, and if you Google menopause in your 30s, 9 things that can age your ovaries. And if they go to Huffington Post and just put my name, you'll see that there were a whole list. As I mentioned, we kind of divided it into 9 things. Even everyday chemical exposures, like I talked about, is a concern. Smoking actually is not good for our lungs, but it also shatters the eggs, and they can make them stop working early. So, you know, there's so many reasons to not smoke, but fertility is actually one of them.
Wow.
So,
okay. That sounds like a very fascinating article that we'll make sure to share on our Facebook page. 9 factors you said? What's that? Let me write down the title of the article.
Yeah. 9 things that can age your ovaries.
Wow. Okay, we'll make sure to share that. 9 things that can age your ovaries.
And that can affect our ability to have babies. So that's going to be important. Now, fibroids are another really common thing that can hit women, and with African American women, they're even more common. So there is this sort of link based on genetic history. So if mom or grandma had fibroids, we're more prone to get them as women. But even when you look at different races, they tend to be more common in certain ethnic groups. And fibroids can bother us and cause periods to be uncomfortable and painful. But fibroids also can sometimes cause infertility and need to be removed. A lot of women say, well, do I need to operate on my fibroids? Do I need surgery? And so we've looked to see, there are basically 3 questions that we ask to decide if fibroids need to be removed when you're trying to have a baby. Number 1 is their size. So if you have a really large fibroid and that it's growing, those fibroids, if they're over 5 or 10 centimeters, may be interfering with an ability to get pregnant, but also to stay pregnant.
Wow.
Number two is if they bug you. So if you're having really heavy periods or painful periods, that would also be something else that can be a reason to have them, you know, to talk to your doctor about removing the fibroid. The third thing is if it's really close to where the baby would grow. So that's another really important question that a lot of women ask in a myth, that fibroids aren't important to our fertility just because they're so common.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So when do you think is a good time to start researching IVF? And is it ever, in your opinion, is it ever too late? You know, what would you say about the timing of it, as far as when you should start thinking about it, when you should start going to see experts, and is there a point where, you know, maybe you need to explore other options?
So in vitro fertilization is where you take medicine to make eggs grow, and when the egg is ready, we pull the egg out and put egg and sperm together in the dish rather than them meeting in the tube, in the fallopian tube. Once the egg is fertilized and the embryo is growing, we then put the embryo, that growing little embryo, back in the uterus, in the womb, and then 2 weeks later we'll know if someone's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
That is, oftentimes people come in and they're like, oh, that must be the last resort. I should think of that only, you know, in the years to come. But actually we found that sometimes it's even a good idea to think about it as our first choice, not necessarily our last choice. The reason for that is that it works the best. So a lot of times in medicine, we wait to use, you know, we use the thing that works the best, we use it first. But in fertility, a lot of people wait to do the thing that's going to give them the best chance of having a baby. They wait a long time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So there are times where there are other things to consider, but for many women, going straight to IVF is not a bad idea. When do you how long could you do IVF? Is there a time where we say no to IVF? And there are. Some of that depends on how strong an ovary is. Some women who have weak ovaries, their body will not respond to the medication, and their odds of getting pregnant with an IVF might be really small. So at that point, we might say it's not worth the, the risk. Maybe it's better to go to an egg donor, for example. Another reason that some couples might consider some other options is doing IVF, collecting the eggs, but actually putting the embryo in a surrogate. So sometimes the uterus isn't strong enough to carry a baby, and exploring some of these other possibilities is a really big decision for a woman. Does she go on and say, let's say go to adoption, or consider not having a baby, versus these let's call them the doing other things that they at first didn't think would be part of what they would need when they were growing up. They didn't think that their uterus wouldn't work, but there are definitely a lot of women who might consider it for that reason. And then you said, what else, what other situations? Sometimes age. Mm-hmm. We just saw in the news that German woman who's 65 years old.
Yes.
Having quadruplets. Well, there's probably some point in time where we have to say, it's time to not do fertility treatment. And that, at 65, it might be a consideration not to do something like have a baby. It's not safe for her, it's not safe for the babies, and maybe it's, as we think about it, it may not even be fair to those babies if their mom's not going to be around, to grow up.
Definitely. As a physician and as a health professional, if you were the German woman's doctor, for example, what do you think your advice would be? Or do you give advice of that nature where you say, do you really want to do this? Or at any time, do you feel like perhaps you should say no to something like that?
Yeah, I think just because we can do certain things in life doesn't mean we should. So in this situation, I think probably when you weigh out everything, not going forward with fertility care, and she has 13 children and grandchildren as well, I think it would be time to stop and consider, we count our blessings, and we certainly love children. Time to stop as well.
Okay. So I see that someone else recently joined our webinar, and I just want to make sure that we don't have any questions from anyone. So I have what's called the Q&A app, which anyone watching us should be able to see, and that's actually where they can type questions. Any viewers can type questions that they want Dr. Beltzos to address. So I will just keep an eye on that, and meanwhile we can just sort of keep our dialogue and discussion going, as I think it's going really well. Some really great information. What do you think, Dr. Beltzos, what do you think some of the first things that people should research when it comes to insurance regarding IVF? That's usually a big conversation too, is if they do decide to go this route, how are they going to finance it?
Oh yeah, that's an important question, because we all know that this is not an easy endeavor, both at a medical level and in emotional, but also it's expensive financially. Mm-hmm. So one of the things is that certain states have laws that help cover fertility. For example, in Illinois, the law says that if you work for a company with at least 20 or more employees, that they have to give you fertility benefits. So exploring that with your human resource person, sometimes you'll find that there are ways to get insurance to cover some of this.
Okay.
Another thing to do is there are, with Obamacare, opportunities for coverage as well. So a lot of my patients have actually looked into that, and there is, again, some coverage that's become available, or the opportunity to go back to old insurance where the insurance said they wouldn't cover anything. I've had a couple of situations where it turned around that it now does have coverage. When insurance doesn't cover anything, HSA accounts, where sometimes at your job they'll let you take out or put away money for healthcare costs, and you might look at that as an option too, because that can make it cheaper when you don't have to sometimes pay taxes on some of the money that's used for healthcare.
Okay.
If insurance can't cover it, there are opportunities for loans. So you may want to look at loan options. There's a company like CapX, which offers loans for fertility treatment, and that's really a great way for some patients to finance it. And then finally, there are a lot of community outreach programs like yours that offers the opportunity to possibly get discounted fertility care and or a possible free IVF cycle through organizations like yours. So I think that going online and kind of searching some of those programs out can be really helpful and provide a huge relief from the burden of having to pay for some of this.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, how many of the patients or the women that you all are speaking to, is financing this a big concern for them?
You know what, Dr. Beltos, I would say that, for, again, my disclaimer is this is just sort of anecdotally. I don't lead a support group, but
Right.
I would say,
Yeah.
I would definitely say that cost is something that comes up in discussion. Some people just think it's not even something that they should even research. They think, whatever it is, I don't have the money. However much it costs, we don't have it. And I think that fear very possibly deters people from even trying and even starting the research. So I'm glad to hear you say, as someone who works in the field and who works with these women and couples, I'm really glad to hear you say that there are options if we do the research. And of course, at Fertility for Colored Girls, part of the reason why we do the fundraising that we do is because ultimately we want to be able to offer funds for these women and couples to build the families of their dreams. And in August, at our, I believe it was the 3rd annual tea, has there been 3 teas already? At our annual fundraising tea in August, we did raffle off a free IVF treatment, and actually the couple from Mississippi did win the IVF treatment, and now they are pregnant with twins. So
Isn't that amazing? That's
it's
awesome.
It's awesome. One of our first, I think I'll venture to say, maybe one of our first sets of FFCG twins, and with that definitely being one of the first times that we've done the raffle, that was an amazing result. So
wow.
Definitely that there is help out there and help available, but certainly what we're understanding is that the first step starts with being proactive and making sure that you're doing that
Yes.
research and asking those questions. So definitely, I think that that's a wonderful point. So I wanted to ask you too, Dr. Beltzos. I had this question. I know that it's pretty common for when you get these treatments, you may have multiple eggs that may be saved or stored for later. Um, what would you say, or is there any limit to how many times you can get IVF? Age notwithstanding, we know that once we get a little bit older, we might want to rethink it. But otherwise, would you say that there are some times, or there a certain amount of times that you might want to start considering other options, such as a gestational surrogate, for example, rather than doing IVF?
Could you say that again? That before that they do consider other options like surrogacy, what else could they do?
Yes. Would you, I guess, when is, should a couple, let's say they've been successfully through a round of IVF, or they have had a successful pregnancy, should they, what should they consider in terms of using, sometimes there are extra eggs. So what should they consider in terms of doing IVF again versus maybe researching surrogacy?
There are ways to kind of look at the uterus when we know the embryo is strong and healthy, both based on what the laboratory, when they look at an embryo under the microscope, they want it to be a certain size and shape. You can do a special test on the embryo to make sure it's really has the right amount of genetic information in it. So if you know you've got a really healthy embryo but it's not implanting, the first question is there medicine you can take to make the uterus more sticky? And there are different medicines that are coming out that might help make the embryo more likely to attach. Number two is, is surgery going to help? Sometimes doing an operation can make the uterus more likely to be pregnant with a good embryo. And so they've looked at medicine, at surgery. There's also the role of acupuncture, and whether this more holistic approach, there's also things like Mayan massage that people ask about that might help their uterus receive an embryo in a more successful.
Okay, I am not sure if Dr. Beltzos is still with us. I don't hear her anymore. So, Dr. Beltzos, if you hear me.
Hope you can hear me.
Okay, there you are. You're back.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry that
Yep,
dropped
I
off
can
quite
hear
a
you.
quite a bit, at least on my end.
Yep, that's okay.
But you were talking about some of the different
Yeah.
things that can be done to assess the health of the uterus and the health of the embryo, to kind of see if there are optimal conditions for a successful pregnancy. So I think we left off about there. Okay. All right. Okay. So, Dr. B, I'm not sure if you can still hear me, but I think we are going to try to wrap it up. We're about a quarter to, um, about a quarter to 8 o'clock Central Time and a quarter to 9 o'clock Eastern. So we are just going to actually see if there's anyone who has any questions on the line tonight for Dr. Beltsos, who has been wonderful.
How you would make a little extra money that's outside of your normal income. So I want you to write down how.
And we've had some more people join, which is great. We just want to see too if anyone has any questions for Dr. B. We're also going to have a replay of the webinar on our website, and where we're going to share on Facebook all of the wonderful information that we have talked about tonight. And if you didn't hear, Dr. Beltsos, Dr. Angeline Beltsos, wrote a wonderful article for the Huffington Post called Menopause in Your 30s, 9 Things That Can Age Your Ovaries. So we actually have that article posted on our Facebook page, so you're going to want to go check that out. It's some really, really great information. So a few of the things that Dr. B shared with us earlier included smoking can age your ovaries, environmental factors and chemical exposures that we don't think about, the type of makeup that we use. So in addition to the food that we eat, if there are lotions or perfumes or dyes or that sort of thing. Being underweight, while people may think that it's a great thing to go to the gym all the time, if you are underweight, that could have an adverse impact on your fertility. Of course, things like undergoing cancer treatment, which could definitely take your health, have a toll on your health and the strength of your body as you go through those treatments to battle cancer. Autoimmune disorders, surgery to remove ovaries. Then genetic factors with African American women in particular, we have a increase, I should say, or we're more likely rather to have fibroids rather than other ethnic groups. So if this is a genetic condition that you know that your grandmother or your mom has, having fibroids could potentially affect your fertility. And some other issues include some health issues such as epilepsy, and then also some DNA defects. So that's a wonderful article that Dr. Beltsos wrote, and again is posted on our Facebook page for you to take a look at when you have some time. Definitely email us any questions that you have at info@fertilityforcoloredgirls.org. We're always looking to hear from you. There are a couple of things that I should update you on. For one, we have a full week of National Infertility Awareness events this week. Yesterday in Chicago, we had, I believe it was cupcakes, coffee, and conversation, talking about different fertility options, and I understand that was a wonderful event. Of course, we have our IVF webinar tonight, and there are several other events throughout the week that you should take a look at on our website and on our Facebook page and consider participating. Another option that we have every Monday is our prayer call, our prayer circle. We do that first thing in the morning on Mondays. To get that dial-in information, please go to our Facebook page or go to the website. Also, you can make sure you're signed up for our monthly newsletter to keep track of the events that we're having. So another great thing that just happened recently, we're so excited to announce the launch of the Atlanta chapter. That kicked off on April 18th, so that was Saturday, and we had a wonderful time with the ladies in Atlanta. Looking forward to some great events from them. So I just invite you to make sure you're keeping up with our Facebook page, Fertility for Colored Girls. You can always log on to our website, www.fertilityforcoloredgirls.org, And you can always email us at info@fertilityforcoloredgirls.org to make sure that you have the most updated information about what we're doing to fight infertility and give hope and offer resources and options for women and families who want to create the families of their dreams. So thank you so much for your time. I wonder if Dr. B has joined us again just in time to give us a final thought to say good night. Dr. B? Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's always an honor and a pleasure to speak with you, and I wish everyone much luck, love, happiness, and health and success with their dreams to have a family.
Awesome. And tell people where they can find you, Dr. B, if they have any questions or if they'd like to research their IVF options.
And if you ever have any questions, you can always email me at the email that will post on your information, but it's Angie.Beltsos, INTEGRAMED.com, integramed.com. I look forward to hearing from anyone that needs any help.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Beltsos. We really appreciate it. You enjoy the rest of your night. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please keep in touch with Fertility for Colored Girls as we recognize the rest of this National Infertility Awareness Week. Have a good night.